Hi, and welcome to Ladies of the Paranormal World. We are back today. We have an amazing episode. This one's going to be a several parter. I can't even tell you how many. So, we're going to start with introductions. Today, you are here with your host, Dark Angel, Drusilla, Wendigo, and Skinwalker. And our special guests today, Mary, Chantel, Mada, and Ryan. And we will have another guest during one of the other episodes later on. However, today she isn't feeling well, so she won't be with us today. All right, guys. So you guys grew up in probably one of the most unique places I think I've ever heard of. Who wants to start? Because I know you guys all got a lot of stories to go.
Well, Mary was going to have me kind of explain a little bit about the timeline. Um, the land, but what is interesting is the original land patent that I found from approximately 1874 shows it to be Osage trust lands. That was originally purchased from the United States government. The deed signed by the Secretary of the President, Ulysses, and that was not our family that purchased it from the U.S. government. We come up with it approximately 1879 because in the 1880 Kansas census, I found our great-great-grandfather and his wife Bathsheba living on that land. So that's when it started into our family. And then it just trickled on down. Their kids, and then their kids married into the Newby family, and then the Newbys lived on it. And so the house as we were living in it was almost 100 years old.
Oh my gosh. So it's definitely got quite a bit of history to start with.
And finding out that it was Osage Trust lands, that tells you right there's Indian involved.
Absolutely. I know we started talking a little bit about that prior to this, about your grandfather, I think it was, having helped or fed one of the Native Americans on the land, or that had come to the land.
Dad would talk about a story that his grandmother, which I'm guessing may have been grandmother Turley, who would have been the original female on the property. It would have been his great grandmother giving the Indians food, dried out biscuits or something. That's all she had to give them, and they ate it and then went their way.
Oh wow!
Because the house at the time, from the stories that I had found in the newspaper from that time period, the house was approximately 5 to 7 miles from Wichita proper at that time.
Right. I know that anything that has to do with Native American and background also has a tendency to come with curses. What is it? Shaman that have placed curses against white people for stealing their land, or against other tribes for their battles and disputes. Sorry, my kids are absolutely driving me bonkers. Stop. Give her some of your drink. It's not that big of a deal. You can share. Sorry about that. I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Well,
anyway,
one thing that was
is there
interesting
anything?
also, we would always find lots of coins on the property. I remember going out behind the house into a blank area and would find buffalo nickels. One of which I still have to this day. I know Mary knows about a quarter because the Chisholm Trail ran close by the farm, and Dad found out. So yeah, there was lots of coins discovered along in there. Cowboys were dropping them as they rode past.
Yeah, we don't really know what started all the activity. The earliest thing I can remember, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and wake up in the middle of the night, and we called her the white puffy thing. She basically looked like a cloud, just a puffy cloud that was any place from 4 to 4.5 feet tall and just about as wide, just like a barrel. And that's how she always appeared. And she just flowed all over the place. And I would wake up, like I said, as a child and see her in my bedroom standing by my bed. And of course, just start my head off. And by the time mom would get up and run in, she's gone. Uh, and my oldest brother uh, told me that, now this is one I don't remember, but he related it to me, that I was always telling him about seeing head or hands or dismembered parts in my bedroom. And I was 3, 4 years old at this time. So my brother, that's just a couple than me, volunteered to sleep in my bedroom on the floor on a mattress. And in the middle of the night, he wakes up and raises his head, and even with him on the floor at the edge of the mattress is a head of a man staring at him. So, of course, he starts screaming, and he's like, yeah, she's telling the truth. There's really things, there's here. Well, our mother would believe us, but our dad always acted like he didn't. Underneath it all, we came to believe that Dad knew about the paranormal and things in the house, but he just would never admit to it. So, starting with that, you would see what we called the ghost, puffy ghost at that time. You'd see her outside during the daytime. You'd see her down in the hay barn. One instance, myself, my brother, and 2 of our friends, we were 7, 8, 9 years old outside. We'd just been in the barn, in fact, playing up in the hayloft. We come down, we're walking up the house, and we turn around and look, and she is floating out of the top of the loft where we just were. She floats to the ground and then takes off across the ground coming towards us. Not in an aggressive way or anything, just floating towards us. And of course, we're 4 little kids. We're seeing a ghost is all we know. And we're like the Three Stooges, in front of you to pull them behind you to get in front of them to be the first one to get to the house. I mean, we weren't, and of course, who was the littlest? Me. So I was the one in the back, and I just knew, I felt she's going to grab me. So it
Oh
always
my
stuff
goodness.
like
You know, I'm
this.
just getting a
Always.
visual of that. I'm getting a visual of that. That's great. That's kind of like we actually in my family, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I'm pushing down whoever's running with me so I can outrun them. Kind of sounds like the ghost apocalypse. Everybody's throwing each other in front of the ghost.
I don't have to run the fastest.
Okay.
I just have to run faster than you.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And as time went by and we all got older, we kind of got used to seeing her. And like I said, there was
Stop
never any
drawing on them and
aggression
put them
from
away,
her.
like I told you.
And at one point, when I was a teenager, our dad had enclosed the back porch, and I was sleeping out there, and we had a blanket curtain, sheet up for privacy. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and that sheet has been pulled back, and there she is standing there, just, she had no face, she had no definition, just that white puffy look. And people would come in the house. My oldest brother's friend come by one day, and he's looking for Ron, and nobody's home, and he just went ahead and went in the house. That's what you did back on a farm in those days, going in. And from our living room, you look down a long hallway. Their bedroom was the very last one on the right, and he said that he's standing in the living room going, hey, Ron, are you home? And he saw her float out of that room and just start floating down the hall towards him. And of course, he was like Roadrunner and was out of there.
If I see anything coming at me like that, I probably wouldn't be sticking around and asking questions either.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking your children at the time. I'm not stopping and going, hey, where you off to?
We'd see her outside. We'd see her all the time. Up until the time we left the farm in, I think it was 1971, my dad became a custom harvester. And she's still there. I know she is. Some spirits are land-bound. And we don't feel that she is, because we would see her off of the farm property. So
So
I know
maybe like an attachment type,
I'm
maybe an attachment type attached to one of you guys.
personally, I think she came from a cemetery that was about uh, maybe 10 miles or so down the road, uh, an older cemetery. And I think she was just from there. And I got older and started understanding a little bit more about the paranormal because back then in the 60s and even the 70s, you didn't talk about the paranormal. If you said you saw a ghost or could talk to them, you were crazy. Nobody wanted anything to do with you. That was just it. And of course, being a child, I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing, why I would see images in my head, why I would feel energy running over my body like electricity, why I felt kind of connected to her. And I came to feel that she was protective, and it was a female energy, I sensed later. And we actually started referring to her as the guardian because we had a
Right.
very negative, dark entity that was also at the farm. And that thing would scare the ever living crap out of you. And he intended, and I say he because it was a male energy. So
Right.
we
I
feel
mean, you
like,
can sense the difference, even if it
yeah,
wasn't somebody that was deceased. You go to sleep, you can feel the difference between a man walking in your room and a woman walking into your room. It's kind of the same thing, only with the deceased. You can feel
Mm-hmm.
the difference in the energy.
yeah. We feel like she was kind of protecting us from maybe that because the doors would open, door lights would go on and off, the usual poltergeist type stuff. One morning, my dad was a dairy farmer, so he would be up at 5 in the morning and go out and sit at the kitchen table, drink a pot of coffee. He gets up and goes out one morning, and their coffee cups sitting on the table. Neither he nor mom put them there, but somebody did.
Oh, nice.
That was, nice gesture type thing. So you'd hear footsteps up and down the hallway at night, and it was a heavy
Right.
man's tread. But this is where my sister Mada thinks that it was our great grandfather, great
Okay.
grandfather Turley.
Just a
And
hunch for the main reason
yeah,
that he was so proud of. This is just kind of he worked very hard. I've read so many newspaper articles about him, the type of man he was, um,
mhm.
the money they were referred to as wealthy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he was looked at as a very important member of the community. That was his baby, and so it just seems to me that he would have hung around to take care of it. In fact, the other day, when I was reading a lot of these articles, I was like, gosh, great, great, great daddy, I'm sorry that it wasn't taken better care of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just,
The
and
farm
I
fell into a
feel,
pretty bad disarray.
yeah, I feel so, I can't explain it. We moved off the farm when I was 7. I had my own experience with the white puppy, and I feel drawn. I feel like that is still my home. That land still belongs to me.
Right.
It's just,
Right. Drusilla, what do you think?
I'm drawn to it.
Yeah, well, tell about what
Very
happened
good.
to you with her.
Well, I was, like I said, we moved when I was 7, so I know I was in school, age 5, 6 years old. Um, at this thing of her, that I remember hearing any stories from the others, so that couldn't feed my imagination. I was in the back, that last bedroom on the right. I woke up and I opened my eyes, and the doorway is pitch black. There's no light. I open my
Hmm.
eyes again, and there's the white cookie thing in the doorway. I kind of
Oh,
blink
wow.
and open my eyes, and it's dark again. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. And I remember this like it just happened yesterday. Nothing has changed in this memory. So I got up, and I'm
Wow.
walking down the long hallway. I get to stepping into the living room from the hall. I turn around, and she's at the end of the hallway.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Oh,
I
wow.
run across the living room to the doorway going into the kitchen, and I stop again and turn and look, and she is coming into the living room from the hallway.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
look into the kitchen, I see our mom standing there at the counter, and I'm screaming. She cannot hear me, nor can she see me, nor can I break through into the kitchen. It's like an invisible barrier was right there. And then all of a sudden I break through, and I remember doing this because you know what, when you go from dark to light and your eyes are trying to adjust,
Yeah.
even though I had been looking into the kitchen, into that light, the light still stunned me when I finally got into the kitchen. But that was the one thing that was probably my first experience. I came home from school once, approximately the same age. Nobody was at the house. Older kids hadn't come home from school yet. Mom and Dad weren't there. I go into the house, and Dad had a chair that looked straight down the hall. Now I'm wondering if it wasn't strategically placed for that reason. Where he
Very through that back door.
At the time, we had three little piglets living in a box in our kitchen. And I thought, okay, I'm scared, but that little piggy's going to save me. So I remember picking up one of those little piglets, went and sat in Dad's chair, and I just had that little pig, and I'm petting it, staring down the hallway. And I couldn't take it. I never saw anything, but I put the pig back, and I immediately went outside. Could not handle the feeling that I got just being in that house.
It was bad. Yeah, I had kind of an incident like that, kind of like that one. I was maybe about 8, 9, 10 years old. Get off the bus, and Dad's probably in the field. My 2 older brothers weren't home from school yet. Mom was gone, and Mom was usually always home, but she was gone. And walking up, and it was a little bit from the road up to the house. And as I got to the back door, and it was one of those doors that half glass and half wood, I could see the image of a man standing in the glass. And I knew that was what we called the evil thing. And just stood there and stared at me. And I stood there and stared right back at him. And I'm like, I'm not coming in the house. Forget it. And I turned around and I walked back across the yard towards the fence of where one of our cow lots were. And I just sat down on the ground by the barbed wire fence and sat there and stared at him in the window. And he stared back until Mom come home, whatever time it was. And as soon as the car drove in the yard, it was gone. But he would never do anything whenever our folks were home. And the guardian would never show up and do anything when our folks were home. That thing would terrorize us kids, but only when Mom and Dad weren't around.
Well, and you had the experience with the hand also, and I have some kind of fetish about a hand that I'm thinking at some point something repressed, or I just don't remember. Yeah, because I remember once you started talking about the hand that you saw, then that triggered. That's why I was afraid. I could have sworn at the age of 7 was going to come from the farmhouse, grab me, and drag me back to the farm, no matter where I was. So I've got to have some type of memory of that hand that you did.
Yeah, and see, it relates back to when I was really.
I don't have. I'm not of it anymore. But it was a real fear that I had, that a hand was coming from the farm to take me back to the farm.
And do you still feel that now that you guys are not there and haven't been there?
A little bit, but now the adult, but yeah, it's still odd, and maybe that's what's the feeling of drawing me back. I can't. There's not a day that goes by I don't think of that place.
Yeah,
there's been at least twice. There's been at least twice that Mom's been pulled back. We were playing cards one night, just me and her, just sitting at the table playing cards, passing time, shooting, talking, and just all of a sudden, out of the blue, she was. I mean, physically she was there, but she was gone. And I started talking to her, and she was telling me about the farmhouse. She was at the farmhouse. It had pulled her back. The evil, nasty thing had pulled her back.
Yeah. The hand she's talking about, I was about 15. I slept in the first bedroom down the hall to the right. Our mom and dad was to the next bedroom to the left, and then that very back one. And as kids, we went to bed at 8 o'clock, period. It didn't matter how old you were. 8 o'clock, you were in bed. And I'd always try to go to sleep before mom and dad turned the TV off and went to bed, because there was no nightlight. There was no nothing in our house. It was, you turn the light out and go to bed. And I was laying there. I hadn't even been asleep. I hadn't been in there probably 10, 15 minutes. And over on the side of the bed, and I was on just a regular bed, box springs and frame. Hand like this, just like a hand, just started going down the side of my bed like this, just trailing all the way down. And I'm laying there looking at it. And I'm thinking, I'm not really seeing this. This just can't be. And it rounded down the bottom corner of the mattress and started going across the foot of the bed. And I kind of said to myself, oh, screw it. And I set up to lunge for it. I was going to grab it and see what was on the other end. I'd had enough. And as soon as I moved, it disappeared just like that. And I was like, oh, crap, that was real. And I got up and ran out into the kitchen and grabbed a hold of the refrigerator, like behind me, and was just standing there. And I was like, I'm not going back in there. I'm not going back in there. And my dad was already, lower the boom. And mom's like, wrong her. She's really, really scared. And I'm trying to say, there was a hand, there was a hand, there was a hand, there was a hand. And after that, I got a lamp in the bedroom. So
I probably would have done the same. That's kind of scary. Okay, so I also have some pictures to show, and we're going to keep talking. I had to step away for a minute. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I'm going to show these pictures, and then we're going to keep talking because I don't want to forget to actually show the pictures before we get too far along, which happens to be something I tend to do. Is I'll go, oh, I'm going to show this, and either I'll forget to share the screen so everybody can see it, or I'll forget altogether. So let's get these out of the way real quick. And then you guys can talk about the pictures, obviously, while we're looking at it and kind of explain from point of view and everything from that. All right. Let's see if I can do this here. Remembering to share. There we go. Can everybody see the screen? Look funny? Come on. There, come on. Open for me. No, gonna be a pain in the neck, aren't you?
It's hard to see.
It's gonna be a pain. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's that picture where the back window, where this back window is showing, and he's turned around looking. That's the one you see the faces in.
No, there's two different pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have three. I believe you sent me three. Let's see if I can get it to work with me here. Okay, so and misjudged the location of the phenomenon in this picture. Actually, way over here. So it's kind of hard to see, but if you look real close, you can see two eyes, a nose, it looks like a skull shape. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about the time that this taken, and when you guys noticed there was something a little off about the picture.
Well, we never really even knew that was there. That when Robert and I were young, we were playing out in the front yard, and I guess our mom just took a picture of us. But what's weird is this front of the house we didn't use for some reason. It had two really good-sized rooms, that could be like a living room and a den or something, but we never used it at all. And we found out from our uncle that they actually used that front part of the house as their living room and stuff when they lived there. But reason our dad just shut the door and nope, he used it for storage. But you can see back behind Robert, you can see the picture now since you moved back out, that white. I don't know if I move my mouse, do you see it?
No.
No.
I don't, but if you tell me where
Okay.
to move mine, I can certainly show
Okay, go to the left, to the towards the black spot.
you. Yep,
The other
right.
way.
Here, the spaces.
Yeah, there. That's it right there.
Yeah,
And it
I've
was
got
sitting in the window watching.
I got the original
And
right
if-
here.
Yes, exactly.
And if you actually, you can see literally that it almost has horns off of its head. And sure that they've got right
Yeah.
there.
Let's see if I
Now this, we honestly don't
can-
know if
right here.
this is the guardian
You
or
can almost see a
anything,
full body
because she
Yeah.
never appeared like that.
if you look at it.
But I think this is something, part of the negative thing that was there, and that's how it was appearing at one time.
Right.
And
I
I've
mean,
got
that's
another
very
picture I've been trying to
possible.
find.
Though I'm gonna get
Of,
goosebumps.
I've got another
This
picture
part
of
gives
Robert.
me goosebumps. I think a
You
little more
think
than that
maybe
one.
this the face in the dark area might be the lady?
I don't think
The
so,
top lady?
because she never had a face.
This one here.
That's actually a window. Yeah, that's a window where it's sitting in the window in the front part of the house that we never used. But she always appeared as just a white puffy cloud.
Yeah.
That's it. She never ever had any definition or anything. But this thing
Okay.
did.
I was just wondering, like, maybe because that was that entity decided to show up, that maybe she was watching through
possible.
the window.
But she never appeared to us when she let us see her. She never actually had a form or anything. And I wish
right.
so much today that farm is still standing, so I could go back knowing what I know today, and with my psychic abilities and psychometry and everything. I wish I could go back, because believe me, if she showed up, I wouldn't run. I'd walk towards her.
Right. Well, it's different when you're older and you start to actually understand and recognize what you're truly going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to come to this picture, which is another obvious and pronounced picture. I cleaned it up a bit. I put it, and you can actually see one face here. You can see the eyes, the nose, and then this one you can actually see what looks like a kind of chubby nose and a mouth. And
That
then
middle one
kinda
kinda
looks better from.
That one you just had, your last
Is
one,
that-
it kind of looks like it's smiling.
Yeah, it does.
Almost.
It does. It's kind of creepy. It almost looks like a little gremlin or something.
When you look at the original, every white dot is a face.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Every white dot on there is a face coming out of that window.
We would
you
hear
can see-
voices in the bar.
That's even creepier.
Yeah. I've got
That's
the
our milk
original
bar.
somewhere. But yeah, when you look at it, when it's a little clearer, you'll see eyes and a head shape on each one of those white dots.
That is really. Oh, you know what? I can see a face here,
Mhm.
face here, and I can see a face here that kind of
They're
blends
also-
with this one.
Yeah.
And this looks like a hand right here.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
what somebody
yeah,
just commented, that
that's
it looked like
definitely
there was a
kind of.
hand.
But
Now,
for the
there is a
longest
story
time,
that goes along.
That looks like different face. Oh, go
Happened
for it,
to
Darla.
our
Go
older
for it. We want to hear all about it. We want to hear about that.
in the barn. He was finishing up cleaning the barn one evening. He was a teenager, and he was in there alone, and he heard a voice call his name. And he said he, stopped, looked around. It was a male voice, and he just couldn't figure out what was going on. And then he heard it again call his name. And we think that it was our great grand Delaire who he was named after. And he was just
Oh,
saying
wow.
hi, I guess. So
It's very possible.
that's
Very, very
that
possible.
again, that right there, that's the front window of the front part of the house that we didn't use.
Yeah, this one definitely kind of gave me chills because if you look at it, it actually looks like the eyes are kind of red here.
Hmm.
You can see a very obvious eye, no face formation, what looks like long hair, possibly a female is what it looks like to me. And you can see the shoulders, the neck. It's very obviously a person standing in the window, but there's no distinguishable characteristics, which means it's not a living person. Whatever or whoever this is obviously a spirit of some kind.
Yeah. And
We're
this
finding more
went on.
stuff. I'm looking through some pictures here, and there's actually a couple of pictures um, there that it's actually in color, so we might be able to get it a little cleaner. But it looks like there's somebody in that window. What do you think?
Well, go ahead and send yours anytime, and I will put them up and
Well, Ryan has
put
a
them on
scanner.
here. So
I can
Yeah.
scan them.
oh, okay. Well,
We can send
if
them
you
to you. Look.
if he wants, he can add me. Yeah, he can add me as a friend on Facebook and
You were
send those
saying
to
that
me, or he
front
can send them to you to
room,
send to me.
Mary, that front
I'm
room
sorry?
you guys never used?
Just
That front area you
sorry?
guys never used as long as you lived there?
Right.
Just for
The front part of the house, it was just for storage. We had a big chest freezer in there. There was just extra pieces of whatever that was shoved in there, but we never ever lived in that part of the house. And we didn't even know anybody did live in it for the longest time until we're talking with our uncle a couple of years ago, and they lived in the house when he was a young boy growing up, and he said, yeah, that was our living room. And what was the living room? He said that was actually their formal dining room. And back then, you just didn't have formal dining rooms and that sort of thing. That's why Mada was
right,
saying the house was
exactly.
considered almost like mansion level, back then
Yeah,
in
because
the
back
early
then
days.
you would have a one-room house, farmhouse, where mom and dad slept over here, the kids slept over there, and you ate in the middle. But this was a formal living room with an archway, so 2 areas, 3 bedrooms, formal separate kitchen, and a basement. So that would have been a wealthy home in 1879.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Do you
And
think
of course, the
maybe
only
your
drawback is there was
parents
no
had some kind of
bathroom.
experience in that front area that they decided to block it off or just use it as storage?
That what?
I said, do you think like your parents
I
had
didn't-
an experience that
It's very.
maybe
I don't
that
know.
was why they locked that section off?
Well, that door wouldn't
It's
open
possible.
either. Remember, Mary, that door would drag.
Yeah,
Because
the
when I
door
was,
going from the end of the hallway. Yeah.
because I could barely open it enough to squeeze through it.
You had
Okay.
to lift up on it
Oh,
and
wow.
pull it. And we were never told to stay out of the front room because
Okay.
we'd go cut through and go through that out the back door, which actually would be the front part of the house. So we were never banned from there and couldn't go in there. The only place in the entire house that our dad said don't go in was his closet. And he never used his closet. And they had, of course, had the biggest bedroom, and it was the old style where it was like the short L, like this. Here's the short part of the L, and then it went in this way. Mom's on one side, dad's on the other. Mom used her closet. Dad never would. He kept the door shut. He hung his clothes on the back of the bedroom door, wherever, on a nail in the wall. He would never hang clothes in that closet. And if you actually opened the door and went in and stood inside the closet, you could, if you stood there long enough, you could hear whispers. You could feel real cold air swirling around your feet and like it was slowly coming up your body. And this would be in the middle of summer, and we had no air conditioning. Air conditioning was an open window. That was it. So
Right.
if it was 100 degrees outside, it was 100 degrees in the house. And you go stand in that closet, though, and you'd start shivering. So we were pretty sure after time, and we learned stuff, that it's a portal.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, honey. Those links that you sent me are not downloading to my phone. Can you actually send it the actual picture through Messenger? Like, can you take
Yeah.
a picture of it? Okay. 'Cause they're not downloading for me.
Okay. Yeah, give me just a sec.
Awesome. All right. So
We found
meantime,
what we. Uh, I'm sorry. We
no,
found
no, go
what
ahead.
we called a depression, a good sized depression underneath the house. And my two older brothers and myself actually crawled under the house, and we were going to go from the front part of the house, crawl all the way under the house, and come out into the basement because it was up on cinder blocks, old farmhouse up on cinder blocks. So you had pretty good little roof. So we crawled approximately halfway through. So there's no light, there's no possibility of light coming anywhere. And we come around one set of cinder blocks, and there's the depression. But sitting right there by the depression was the white puffy thing. And we could see her just as
Yeah.
clear as a bell, all three of us. We just stopped, and we're like, oh crap, there she is. Where did she come from? Yeah. And we're like, okay. So we backed out and crawled back out. And our oldest brother said, well, I'm going to go into the base through the house. You guys crawl back under the house and see if she's still there and if you can come on through. Yeah, so let us do it. So we did. We crawled back under there, and we come around the corner, and sure enough, she's still sitting there on that cinder block or whatever the heck she was sitting on. And I were like, nope, we're out of here. So, and
I can't blame you on that.
We're thinking she was sitting there to keep us from crawling through that depression for a reason.
Oh my. Okay.
And
Okay. So I just got the one picture that you sent me here. Where am I
What
looking on this picture that
thing
we
was
should be
what?
focusing? The top part of the window?
Yeah, it almost looks like a man with a hat.
mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I see what you're saying here. Hold on. Let's see if I
And then
can
I'm
clean
going,
it up so
okay.
that everybody else can see what we're saying.
And being the debunker of the group on some things, I'm like, okay, is that the trees? What could we?
Right.
Right.
Can we explain this logically?
When I saw him standing in that back window that time, he was wearing a hat.
Try and
But we,
point
this
out-
brother
You
and I
said
could
that,
decide
you
that
said
that
you didn't
depression.
think that the woman was just stuck to your house. You said that she.
No, I don't think she was, because we saw her on other places off the farm property. But
Do you
You
think
saw
like
called the
your
evil
neighbors
thing.
had her
It's
through
still
their
there.
houses?
You and Robert saw her
I'm
down
sorry?
there too. You and
I
Robert
said,
saw
do you
her.
think like did you know if your neighbors had seen her or if anybody had
We
said
didn't have
that they
neighbors.
seen her? Oh,
We didn't
okay,
have
you were that
neighbors.
far out. You were that
You
far
guys
out.
got
We were way out in the
questions
middle of
too.
the
We have guests asking us questions. One of the guests' name they called me Flex says, any idea what made the decision there?
Yes, I was going to say, my oldest brother and I, over time and talking, and after another incident that I had in the house, a vision that I had seen, we think it was a mass grave. And we think it may have been of settlers, maybe from a wagon train or something that came through, and the Indians killed them. And of course, the Indians wouldn't have buried them because they didn't do that. But maybe townspeople or somebody came along and found, dug the hole, dumped the bodies in, covered them up, and went on their way. Because that's what they did a lot of times back in the 1800s.
I
Because
see.
yeah.
So I would
And
clean this picture up a little bit, but not much.
we've always wanted to be able to go back and dig up that depression and see if there's any bones or anything to it, but it was never able to be done. And now there's an industrial building on top of it, so it's never going to happen.
Well, and with the
Yeah.
technology we have nowadays, I mean, they do have ground penetrating radar. They may be able to use that to see if there's anything.
underneath.
Right.
And to
That's very
Fluffy,
true.
yes, I do think the evil thing is related to that. I think I had a vision standing in the living room, looking down the hallway of a huge black rolling cloud coming towards me. And in that cloud, there was
Mhm.
dismembered body parts, head, hands, feet, arms, just the entire thing
Oh
as
my
it
gosh.
rolled down the hallway towards me. And this is why my brother and I think that it was the depression of a graveyard, basically. Um, and these people that were killed by the
Okay.
Indians and dumped in this hole and forgotten, that anger and pain and resentment and sorrow and sad, everything that was experienced manifested into what we called the evil thing. That's what we believe.
Wow. All right.
When we got to
Okay, so I cleaned up this
questioning
picture.
also
I'm going to show it.
in the
Oops,
south
sorry. Go
part
ahead.
of what we used as our alfalfa field south of the house, we had sinkholes that were maybe 6 feet deep that our cattle would fall into, and
Oh.
we got to wondering if there wasn't burials out in that area because it was just random sitting there, and what else would be causing our cows to fall up to their neck into a hole? So
Right.
Yeah,
we're
I
trying to,
almost fell in one with the tractor.
yeah.
Right.
And they would just
All
appear
right.
like that. Like,
Random holes out in the field, and we're not an area that had been industrialized or used for anything other than farming.
Yeah, it was just a
So
hayfield.
yeah.
And you
I'm going to
can
bring
tell
out
it
to your
that
attention.
these
I know
holes
you
have
all.
been dug out.
I'm going to bring it
Yeah,
to your attention in this picture. You
but
say
they weren't dug out
92.
when you guys planted, right?
Well,
Did
I
Yeah,
they
we
believe,
planted hay in that field.
yeah, but it was almost like the
Right
wear,
now, Fluffy.
the land, and the irrigation caused them
Okay.
uh,
To sink in?
But
They call me
and-
Fluffy has another question. Says, well, could the evil thing be related to it? Like, could he have held
Yes.
so much resentment that he was filled with malice?
absolutely. We think, as I was saying a while ago, that just a culmination of everything, if people were killed and that it just eventually into that and just terror kids.
If it was a surprise attack or something, the fear, the not getting a proper burial, the all of that can all coalesce and manifest.
Yeah. To Fluffy's question, he's
They call me
asking,
Fluffy. So to go back, would you be willing to help ease? Would you be able to ease
who
their reside there? Like, would you make them at least a headstone or something for the forgotten?
unfortunately right now that entire area has been rezoned industrial, and there's industrial buildings and everything everywhere. So I don't even know if something like that would be allowed. The last time I was there before these buildings went up, and it's been several years, I was walking around in the front yard showing my husband. I'd taken my husband up and was showing him, this is where I grew up, this is where the house sat, how you do. And I was fine. When we got there, I was fine walking around for a little bit, and then here it come. And it hit me like a punch in the gut, instant nausea, just doubled me over, and I went to my knees. And it was a physical attack. And why, I have no idea. And then, of course, the only thing I could do was leave the property and get off of it as quick as I could.
Do you think they were whatever was there was mad because you guys left?
It's possible,
I think it was just
but I really
bad.
have no way of knowing, because it would never communicate with you. We just saw it, we felt it. It would terrorize you, like I said. I mean, when my oldest brothers and I, when mom and dad would be gone and we'd be left there at the house, And our oldest brother, would be like 16, 17. Robert would be 15. I'd be like 12, 13. That was our age span. I mean, we were terrified. And like Maida was talking about Dad's chair, we would pull that chair to the middle of the living room and sit there in that chair where you could see down the hall, but you could also have an exit out the back door into the kitchen out the back porch. And I mean, just to make us feel safer, I remember Robert and I holding a broom and a mop, like we're going to save ourselves with this broom and mop if this thing comes down the hallway at us.
Now, I want to go ahead and show this picture. I was able to clean it up after you sent it. Now, I see two different entities in this picture, not one. I see two. I see one of a female and one with the man in the hat. So I want to see if you guys can see as I do. To me, this looks like a fake body and dress. And then here is the man. Here's his eye. There's his eye. There's his nose. There's his mouth. There's the hat. Do you guys see that the way that I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see it.
To me, it looks like there's two separate entities actually looking out this window.
Yeah.
And that's that front window in the room we never used.
Yeah, and what was referred to as the front part of the house.
Now,
and Fluffy asked.
It's odd.
Fluffy asked again.
Shoot. It's odd because if you look down here, you can kind of see the legs of the figures, but not the other. And then you've got this space where there's just nothing.
Yeah, it was just dark in there.
So that's kind of creepy. We've got a foot, half of a leg, and the upper of them, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk
For
about
being children,
this picture, this one is more in color than the other ones. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say to Fluffy's last comment about at least when we lived there, maybe he was trying to communicate but didn't know how. And again, I don't believe this was one single entity. I think it was an accumulation of all these different, feelings and everything coming together and manifesting into what we perceive as a single entity. And when you get something like that, it's almost impossible. And what I understand now, to deal with something like that, they don't want to talk. And then, like I said, this thing would just,
right. Yeah, they want to scare.
I would go back up there. Yeah, myself and Mada and Ryan, we've been back up to property the way it is now with the industrial buildings and everything. We've got some pictures of us up there, and Shantel was there, and we're standing at the only original farm that's still there, which is behind the industrial building. There's an area that's got a hedgerow of trees and some land where we would run calves. That's the only original part left. And we got some orbs, that sort of thing. And Ryan saw our dad, his grandfather, there at one point, felt him. So
I was going to say, Ryan's been very quiet. I'm intrigued to see what he's got to say.
So my instances of the farm, it was like what Mary was saying. Whenever we did go back up there, the black entity that she was talking about, the what I referred to as a shadow person, the aura and the feeling that I got off of it, it was more of a Native American spirit more than anything. It would, and I believe that was the main malicious entity that they were coming up against during, when they were younger. Because I mean, you could feel the negativity and the hatred. I mean, it was pure hatred. And I mean, it's a group of people on this land, and I mean, the spirit, I don't think it could comprehend. I mean, as
The
far as
difference in time.
what was going on, yeah. And so I do believe that it was a Native American spirit. There's it, and it's really hard to explain when you come against something like that, because it's not something you can fully see to really make it out versus what you're feeling off of it, and that's what I got. And then, like Mary said, I saw my grandfather there, and his image, I feel, was more of a residual. I don't believe it was actually his spirit there, uh, for the simple fact that he didn't look like he did the day that he died. I mean, it was more of these same images that I've seen in pictures over and over, of him on the farm. And so I believe it was residual. I mean, the man poured his blood and sweat into that property. That I do. I believe that it's just his essence, lingering around.
Right, exactly. Now there's a lot of dark, a lot of mixed, like mixed emotions, mixed entities, and then there's the guardian. If I know you didn't spend much time there, childhood wise, right? You
No,
were
He
moved
wasn't there.
out.
no, I wasn't there for that part. She hadn't hit puberty yet for me to even be considered at that point.
Yeah, Mada was like 7 years old when we left the farm.
But the time that I did spend there, one thing that was my main goal, was to look out for the white puppy thing, and she wasn't there. And in my experience and feeling is, when you have a guardian there, they're usually there for a, and I think whenever they moved away from the property and it reverted into more of an industrial site, she no longer had a purpose. And I feel that she either moved on to a different location, or, like if Mary said, if she is truly down from the cemetery, she may have gone back to the cemetery, or she may have found her way to move on. But I didn't.
Now
Go ahead.
I think she's
have a
from the
curiosity.
cemetery, because this would have been late 1960s. There was actually news reports that was coming out, more like, oh, Halloween, haha, see a ghost type thing. But there was some reports hit the news that people had reported seeing a white image in this cemetery around Halloween time,
you'll have
or
to-
towards
You're gonna
the
have to
fall.
dig that up
And
for me.
that's kind of why I think that's why she's from there,
Right.
because there
Yeah,
was
back
reports of
then it was back then with reports, it was, let's make a joke instead of really sitting down and going, wait, this may be real. So
yeah.
I
Well, police were, sheriff was called to such and such cemetery on such and such road out in Sedgwick County for the report of in the cemetery, possible vandalism. And we started hearing things about, well, people are saying they see this white thing running around the cemetery. And of course, me and Ron, we look at each other like, we know who it is.
Well, I have to say, with everything that went on in that home, do you ever feel that these things have followed you in your life?
Not that particularly, but there's other stuff around me all the time. It's like no matter where I go, I've been told as a psychic medium that people, they say I have an extremely bright aura that spirits can see, and it draws them to me. Ryan has the exact same thing. They're drawn to him also.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of times they just want to, hey, I'm here. They want acknowledgement. They want help. They just want to sit there and talk to you. Times I've woke up and I'm kind of getting ahead of our timeline, and seen somebody standing by the side of the bed, and I'll be like, okay, what do you want? And they won't answer me. They just poof, they're just gone. And it gets kind of frustrating, because I'd love to be able to help them if they're stuck, but if they don't talk to me, then there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
right.
stuff.
Right.
I've walked into
Mada,
grocery stores before.
We have a whole Mada season that's going to be going on, because she's got a a job that's quite well. If she grew up in it, why not work in it too?
Absolutely.
So she's going to have her own segment that's Mada's haunted hotel segment because who else is there? But as far as having other experiences throughout your life, do you think that living in this place made you more sensitive to the paranormal? Do you think that maybe it opened your eyes to it prior to becoming aware of your abilities?
I think I was born with the ability. I think everybody is born with a certain type of psychic ability. It just depends on what it is, and if you use it and enhance it and learn how to use it and grow with it, then you'll get stronger and more powerful, for want of a better word. Um, at the time, I didn't know I was a psychic. I didn't understand what seeing these images in my head meant. And seeing like this thing rolling down the hallway at me. And now the hand that I saw and all of that was an actual physical hand. It wasn't a vision.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was an actual physical hand go down the side of the bed. And that's why I tried to grab it, see what was on the other end. But it
I don't
disappeared.
know that I'd have been
Maybe it was
grabbing
like
for.
your brother something trying to
I
scare
was
you.
fed up with this.
I'm one of those people. If I start feeling things walking or touching around me, I'm like, somebody get me something sharp. Like if I'm touching it, I'm bringing back a bloody nub. I don't think I'd be
wasn't
reaching
until
out to grab it.
it wasn't until I became an adult and actually started understanding more about the paranormal and reading and talking with my daughter and my sister and everybody and kind of going, hey, this is what I can do. This is what it is. Because back then, if, like I said earlier, in the 60s, if you said you could see a ghost or you were a psychic, well, that was satanic. You were accused of being in league
Right.
with the devil. So
Right. It
you kept it
wasn't.
to
You're
yourself.
waiting.
And
Sorry about that, Brian.
now
Go
over
ahead.
time, as we all know, the paranormal's out there in the open and people can talk about it and you know,
Hmm.
it's
Well, I mean, look at the
accepted.
government. They've even accepted the fact that UFOs exist. Oh, but hold on. They changed their
Hmm.
names. They don't actually exist. They exist as UAPs. Gotta love it. Because they didn't have an original idea of their own. They can't go, oh, the things that we said don't exist for the last 150 years, suddenly they exist. So they had to change the name. But that's a discussion for another day. um, but now that it's being widely accepted that there are things that we can't explain, it's a lot easier to talk about being a psychic medium now because it's not judged as harshly as it was. Um, so, having the
Yeah.
freedom to say, hey, this is my ability. This is what makes me special.
And
I have to say that probably feels pretty good to be able to recognize that you have that special ability,
it's
not
been
feel
hard
ashamed
for
of
me.
it.
Yeah, it's been hard for me because and Chantel can explain this one, that I have a lack of confidence in what I'm actually seeing or getting. And even today, I'm afraid if I get something and I go up to somebody, a total stranger, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, do you know a so and so? Does this name mean anything to you?" And it's a spirit come through to give me a message to give them, but my lack of confidence in myself that what I'm getting is real. Then I'm like, no, I'm just going to go home. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want them to get that look that, hey, there's a nut over there. So it's something I've had to work with and try to build more confidence. And I've had a few instances
Right,
happen in the last several months that's actually helped with that.
right. Well, would you like to share those experiences while we still have a few minutes before the end of the show?
Um, well, one, I was getting my hair done, and there was an older lady that had come in and to get her hair done, and she was leaving ahead of me, and she was really good friends with the hairdresser. And I noticed around her was another lady that had passed, and she was like right next to her, shoulder to shoulder, right there with her, and she was telling me, some stuff. But of course, I'm like, all this. So after she left, I asked the hairdresser, I said, how well do you know that lady that just left? And she said, oh, I've known her almost my whole life. She said, she's like a second mother to me. And her and I had talked about the paranormal, so I knew she would be receivable with it. And I told her what I had just got. I said, would your friend be acceptable if I tried to give her this message? And she said, tell me and I'll tell her. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I gave her all the information, what it was all about. And she called me about a week later and told me, she said, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't know what you've done. She said her friend had passed away. She had taken care of her all through her illness. They were like sisters. They were that close. And she never really got a chance to say a good goodbye. She felt like she didn't have any closure, like she had guilt feelings, like she felt like she didn't do enough to take care of her, to make her better, that sort of thing, which she couldn't do. And her friend was there saying, hey, you did the best you could. I'm happy. I'm done. I'm good where I'm at. Let it go. Go on with your life. You did the best you could, and I loved you for it. Everything was fine. So when she gave her friend this, and I hope she'll start crying, when she gave her friend the message, she broke down and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe, she said, that's exactly what has been bothering me all this time. And it helped her resolve what her feelings were left over. And at the time, the hairdresser told me that her friend didn't believe in God, that she didn't believe in God, heaven, the afterlife, nothing. It was like, okay, you grow up, you live, you die. That's it.
Oh,
and
wow.
she had me on speaker, or her friend on speakerphone, when the hairdresser was telling her all of this. So her husband was also hearing it.
Oh,
And
wow.
she said they both literally broke down and said, oh my God, the only way this woman could know this is if our friend actually came to her and told her this information. And now they say they believe in God, they believe in heaven, they're good to go.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
that helped validate me that I was actually getting the right information and sharing it was the right thing to do.
Wow. You see, and I'm sure that probably made you feel better, even
Oh
validated some.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. And then
awesome.
I was
Well,
able to help not them, but the lady be able to go on, maybe, because her
yeah,
message
and be
got
able to
delivered.
just have a little bit of peace.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I really hate to say it because I love having you guys on here. I love listening to the stories and I love talking to you guys. And I cannot wait until next Tuesday to have you on again. Hopefully, everybody will be available.
Thank
And
Um,
so,
and
you.
hopefully, Shauna will also be available next time. I hope to hear from her. We're going to have this for as long as you have stories to share. We have all the time in the world. We love listening to you. So from now on, I'm also, I don't know if you noticed, but on the right side of our screen, or might be the left side of your screen, I don't know. I've made it so that the comments can be read throughout the show so that we're not trying to like eyeball the side of the screen. We can actually just see
Yeah.
the comments as they come in. I just noticed that we were getting quite a few comments during the show, and I had to stop and keep reading through it just to be able to respond. Um, but it was an amazing episode, you guys. This is an awesome way to kick off my second season. I'm super excited. Me and my co-team, we're really happy to have you guys. Also, if you guys would like to bring any further evidence, I know you guys have the coin that you were talking about, documents. Oh, and you guys wanted to read a little bit of the documentation that you guys have. Is that right?
Yeah, got it.
Um,
we can save that
got
for
it. If you
next
would
week.
like, oh no, you can read it now. We got about
Okay,
10
you
minutes.
got
I'll
time?
stretch it.
You can read it?
Yeah, I
So,
will go ahead and stretch it.
so this is written by my grandmother, late summer of 1961. It says, I can't remember now for sure, but I know it was warm enough to go outside without a coat and comfortable. I could swear before God with my hand on the Bible that this was not a dream. I awoke early one morning before daybreak, having to use the restroom. I got up, went outside when I heard a voice call my name, Bobby, from the doorway. I answered, saying yes. I received no answer. As I stepped upon the steps, I was called again. I answered again the same thing, yes. As I stepped on the porch and pulled the screen door open, I remember thinking it must have been one of the kids, but they have never called me Bobby. I went to each room. It was light enough for me to see that each one of them was sound asleep, and Ron, which is her husband, was also asleep. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
she actually had a vocal phenomenon happen to her.
Right. Now, is there multiple of these writings that there's to share, or is it just the one that was written down?
This one's about the dream.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a dream. She felt it. The hands.
Well, this one, she said, I
The
had a
hands, yeah,
dream
she woke up and fell.
in 1962.
Is that the same one? No, this is a dream. There was another one where she talked about the hands.
Can't remember the month. Okay, so this one, it says about 35. This was in 1961. I can't remember the month, but was using a blanket to cover with. Ron and I usually go to bed around 10:15. They were pools. I had fallen asleep with my fists clenched, lying on my chest. So basically, she was
Just
laying
laying,
like
yeah.
this. I felt a warm hand take each of my fingers and straighten them out, then take my hands and crisscross them across my chest. The hand or hands were warm and tender.
So she
we're
was,
talking like coffin style, like.
She
yeah,
was
and they
laying
did
like
them.
this. Hit them like that.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, I'm good on that. Somebody starts posing me like I'm about to be buried. I'm good on that. No, thank you. Like, I don't care how tender them hands are. There's dark bleeding blood. So that sounds pretty scary. I don't know that warm and tender would have pushed away the feelings of, feeling like I was getting prepped for burial.
And the dream, mom had a dream that, about the bull, I guess, chasing dad. And
Mhm.
not too long after that, dad's leg did get broken down at the barn.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
She had a dream
So
that the bull was
sounds
chasing
like-
him out in the cow lot, and he rolled under a fence. And as he rolled
Mhm.
under the fence in her dream, the bull stepped on his leg and broke it. And about 2 weeks later in the cow barn, Dad slipped and fell, and a cow stepped on his leg and broke it.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's pretty foreboding. I would say is a good word for that. It sounds like even as far back as long before you guys were even born and raised into the home, there was a lot of activity prior to even you guys.
I think so.
Yeah, we
So
don't really
I
know.
would really-
We tried talking to our uncle who lived there growing up, and he didn't really recount anything like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
we don't know.
So the only thing you can really go off of are letters or diary writings that are left behind. That's kind of cool, and at the same time kind of sad because it feels like the story of the home has kind of died off as well as the home has, where it's been replaced with industrial.
Well, we tried to go back up there. We talked to the people that run that machine shop, and we actually asked them if they would let us come in because they're hearing footsteps in the machine shop. Their machines kick on for no reason at all, so they're having activity. And we tried to get in there to do an investigation, and we couldn't get them to follow through.
Oh my!
Yeah.
I wonder if you'd be able to get anybody to talk to you at bare minimum, maybe voice record or something, just to kind of hey, this is what they're having, and then share it with the show. We'd love to hear what they're experiencing. I know not everybody wants to be seen on camera. Some people are camera shy, but if they ever wanted to have their story recorded with you guys and you guys share it, that'd be awesome. It would be welcomed. Again,
We think who's ever
now that we're
walking in the shop was whoever was walking up and down our hallway. We think it's the same spirit.
that it could very well possible be because you didn't change the land, you just changed the layout.
Right. And what the
Whatever
spirit's
was
going
there.
to see, he's still going to see himself in the hallway walking up and down the house hallway. He's not going to see the building or
Right.
anything. And I
Right,
actually tried to
exactly.
see him one night when he was pacing up and down and up and down, and I couldn't get to sleep. And I got up and I kind of tiptoed across my bedroom and got to the doorway. And just as the footsteps hit the end of the hall and turned around and come back and got to my doorway, I jumped out in the hall and I was like, bleh! To him. And
It's like, it's my turn now.
Right.
yeah, and then I'm like, I'm looking up like this because I know he's taller than me and I know he's up here. And I'm going, would you please stop pacing the hallway? I'm trying to sleep. You're making too much noise. And I went back to bed. And as soon as I got in bed, he started walking back up and down the hallway again.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's good. That's good. I don't think I've ever had someone try to scare a ghost before.
Twice, actually. I did
I've
it at a
heard
job when I was dead.
I've heard all kinds of the ghosts scared me, but I don't think I've ever heard the ghost got scared by the human.
Turn the tables.
He
That's
totally
human.
ignored me and went right on. So.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't hear him stumble or something.
No.
Blind.
I knew he was right in front of me. I could feel him right in front of me.
I can just imagine him being scared.
Yeah.
He's probably laughing, in all actuality, thinking, okay, little girl, just go back to bed. I'll go in my bed.
You know,
Let's
I could probably
Yes,
see
and the
that
first
too.
one in about 5 months tried to scare me back.
Oh my goodness. Oh jeez. Oh, that's good. That's good. I don't think I've ever heard that one. Um, I've heard people go, I'm gonna catch this guy talking to me. I'm gonna pull out a recorder. I'm gonna pull out a Polaroid camera. I don't think I've ever heard someone go, I'm gonna pull out
Yeah, and I did. Well, I was jumping out there and I was like, ah!
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. We absolutely love having you guys. That's a great way to end this episode. Um, Next Tuesday will be the same time, 7 o'clock. Tomorrow we have the ghost host. Oh my goodness. Sophia Temporelli is going to be with us tomorrow. I hope you guys will join for watching the show. She has had interviews with Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures. She's had interviews from Destination Fear, basically any paranormal group you can think of. She's talked to them, and we are going to talk to her.
She's also interviewed Amy Allen.
Yep. Also from Dead Files, Amy Allen has been on her show.
Love Amy.
So do I.
Oh, yeah. They're not
I'm
doing
hoping one of these days to have her on my show.
Yeah.
But you guys are amazing. I love the stories. I can't wait to hear what you come up with next. Anything that you can find, background, documentation, you name it, we'd love to see it.
Well, I know Mada's got an EVP or two that she can send you down the line. So
Yes, I do. I have a Class A EVP that sounds like the person was standing right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's definitely awesome. EVPs are fun. We like listening to those. We actually had a gentleman on yesterday who had some pretty gnarly EVPs sent to him. One of which was "You're gonna die." That one kind of made me go, "Okay, I don't want to go to your house."
Yeah.
So, you start hearing somebody tell you that you're gonna die, you just kind of go, "You know what? I'm good."
well, that's when you turn around and say, "No, you first."
Oh, I would straight up be like, "Nope, you can have the house, you can have the car, you can have the TV. I don't want it. You can have it. Ain't nobody killing me." I'm good.
I know enough now. I argue with them. I'm like, no way, no.
But I really do look forward to you guys, and thank you again for joining us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on Ladies of the Paranormal World with your host, Dark Angel, Drusilla, Wendigo, and Skinwalker, and our wonderful guests, Mary, Mada, Ryan, and Shantel. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.